Hello everybody, this is your English teacher and this is my lesson on the Tudors. Listen guys, I'm going to split this lesson into at least 3 parts because it's going to be quite long and so I don't want you to get bored, and so I thought it would be better for me if I split the lesson into at least 3 parts, okay? So let's get started, and this is my greeting to you. Okay, let's move. The Tudors. Who were the Tudors? Well, the Tudors were a family, okay? It was a very important dynasty, so a royal family that ruled over the United Kingdom from 1485 until 1603. And this period is also known as the English Renaissance, okay? While in Italy we had Renaissance before that period, the English people got to the Renaissance quite later, at a later time. And this was actually the period which coincides with the Tudor dynasty on the throne. Mind you guys, I told dynasty and I am not making a mistake, because dynasty is the English, the British pronunciation, while in American English you say dynasty, okay? So you have 2 different pronunciations. Okay, so let's have a look at this so much important dynasty. Of course, may I just remind you that the last chapter of history that we studied was about the War of the Roses. You remember it was a war fought between not 2 countries, but between 2 English families that both claimed the throne of England. And these 2 families were the York family and the Lancaster family. Now, the York family had a symbol which was a white rose, while the Lancaster family had another symbol which was a red rose. That is why the war was called the War of the Roses. Now, this war lasted quite a long time, more or less 30 years. It was not fought continuously. There were some periods of pause, but it finished only when the 2 families decided to get together through a marriage, and this marriage was celebrated between Henry VII and Elizabeth of York, these 2 people that you can see here. Now, why do we get to the Tudor dynasty? Okay, because Tudor was the surname of Henry VII. Henry VII, the first Tudor king, was born from a mother who was a Lancaster and a father who belonged to the Tudor family. That is why we know that the surname of the father goes on to the next generation, and that is why we have the Tudor dynasty. Now, this flower that you can see here is a rose, of course, and it's the union of the white rose and the red rose, and it is one of the symbols of the Tudor family that actually is the result of 2 families who got together. Okay? Clear? Hope so. Let's move on. Now, I'm showing you this picture. This is called coat of arms. It's the symbol, it's the crest of the Tudor dynasty, and as you can see, it's a very rich and elegant one. Lots of things here going on. You can see there is also the rose and lots of crowns, and of course you can imagine that the bigger and the richer the coat of arms is, and the more important the family is. And actually I told you that the Tudors were really important and powerful. Let's move on. So, how many monarchs were part of this Tudor dynasty? Well, not very many, but quite a part of them. Okay, so a lot of important kings of queens were part of this Tudor dynasty. Let's meet them. Okay, the first one we have said, Henry VII, who got married to a York, and so he was king from 1485 to 1509. Now kids, remember, the dates that you see here are not the dates of birth and death, but this is the first one. The first year is the date in which the monarch gets to the throne, and this of course is the date of the end of that kingdom, which usually coincides with the death of the monarch. Okay, so this is when they come nearer to the throne, and this is the date of their death. Okay, so Henry VII was the first one. Then we have Henry VIII, who was his son. Quite an interesting person, you will see. Okay, he was king from 1509 to 1547. And then we have Henry VIII's son, Edward VI, who ruled not for a very long period, and he died at a very young age. Well, actually, he died when he was your age, 16 years old, more or less. After Edward, we have a queen, Mary I. Also, Mary I was Henry VIII's daughter, okay? From 1553 to 1558, quite a short kingdom. She died of an illness. But then we have the big one, okay, the most important monarchs of them all, who was not a man, okay, a woman, and what a woman, Elizabeth I. Elizabeth I was also the daughter of Henry VIII, and she ruled over the United Kingdom from 1558 to 1603. What a lady! Okay, let's have a look at all of these kings. Actually, in this lesson, just two of them, I hope so. Henry VII. Henry VII was the first Tudor king. What did he do? What should we remember about him? Okay, let's have a look. He had to deal with frequent conspiracies. Conspiracies were quite a natural thing that happened in the courts at those times, because there were always some more or less hidden enemies in the court that wanted to fight against maybe the king himself, or fight against other persons belonging to the court because of some jealousy, okay? So, or because they wanted more power. And so he had to fight against these frequent conspiracies. But he tried to consolidate his position. He wanted to be accepted as the true king of England after all those fights against the York, yes. So he really wanted to demonstrate, to show that he was the right man at the right place. What did he do in order to do that? Different things. For example, a treaty with France to close all the wars against France. He started a new period of peace with France, okay? And this gave him quite a recognition. Then also a commercial treaty with the Netherlands. England and Netherlands were really the masters of the oceans at that time. They really had the most important ships, not only from a military point of view, but also from a trade point of view. So England and the Netherlands were really the most powerful nations from a commercial point of view. Then, thanks to him, we will have the marriage of his son, Arthur, to a Spanish princess, Catherine of Aragon. And this was also quite important because this put an end to a kind of rivalry between England and Spain. Also, Spain was a very, very important country at that time, a very important kingdom with important kings, and so it was quite necessary to have good relationships. And these good relationships were achieved through marriages. Okay, so his son, Arthur, gets married to Catherine of Aragon. It will not be a long marriage because Arthur will die quite mysteriously, and so Catherine of Aragon will be left alone. Other things. Henry VII aimed at increasing and reinforcing England's trading position. He wanted England to become powerful on the seas and in all commerces, okay? So he did his best in order to achieve these results. And also he laid the foundations, so he founded the English naval power, because we know that England had a very important naval fleet, so ships, which were used for military reasons and also for commercial reasons. So English fleets, English ships were absolutely the best in this period, okay? And so he increased spending, the money to spend on shipbuilding, so to build ships, new ships. And this, of course, led to England having its own merchant fleet, and also extended its military power. So really, with Henry VII, England starts to be regarded as maybe one of the most powerful nations in Europe. Also, he made stronger the monarchy and turned England into a more modern state. So the Middle Ages are at the back, are far away, and we are entering a new phase in English history, where England, or better to say the United Kingdom, shows itself to the world as a modern state.